My husband, Eli, and I were having dinner when his mother, Helen, suddenly burst into the restaurant and yelled, "Why didn't you invite me?" Eli quickly apologized and pulled out a chair for her. I was furious, but I managed to stay calm. I stood up and said, "You two enjoy, because I'm done with this marriage." The whole restaurant went quiet. I'm 34, married to Eli, who is 38. We've been married for 6 years after dating for 2. When we first met, things seemed perfect. He was kind, funny, and respectful. We hardly fought at first, except when it came to his mother, Helen. I really tried to get along with her. I'm not confrontational, and I always try to be nice. I bake pies at holidays, remember birthdays, and do small thoughtful things. But from the beginning, Helen didn't like me. She made up her mind about me without even getting to know me. When I met her for the first time, she didn't smile. She just looked me up and down and said, "You're taller than I expected." I laughed it off, thinking she was just nervous. But it got worse from there. She'd make comments like, "You don't wear makeup, that's brave," or "That's the dress you're wearing," or "You didn't use my recipe for the stuffing." She even came to our house unannounced. One time, she let herself in with a spare key Eli had given her. I was in my bathrobe, and she said, "I used to wear things like that before I got married, too." I begged Eli to set some boundaries, but he always said, "She means well, she's just old-fashioned, she's trying in her own way." To me, it felt like she was trying to control everything, but Eli either didn't see it or didn't care. Over time, I saw how much control she had over Eli. He wouldn't make any big decisions without checking with her first. If we planned a trip, he'd ask her if the dates were okay. I couldn't even buy a new couch without getting her opinion. She criticized everything I did, from how I folded towels to how I made eggs. And Eli, he never told her to stop. He just smiled and let me deal with it. A month ago, Eli came home and told me he had a surprise. He had made a reservation at Luca's Trattoria, the same place we went for our first anniversary. He said he wanted to reconnect. Things had been tough, and we hadn't spent time alone in a while. I was happy to hear that. Maybe he was finally ready to focus on us. I got ready, wore my favorite dress, and even curled my hair. We got to the restaurant, and it felt like a nice evening. We were laughing and enjoying our drinks when suddenly we heard a loud voice from behind. "Why didn't you invite me?" Everyone turned to look. There she was, Helen, standing in the middle of the restaurant glaring at us. Eli froze. She walked up to our table and said, "You told me you were staying in tonight. You didn't say you were coming here." I couldn't say anything. My heart was pounding and I was furious. She turned to me and said, "You didn't think I'd want to be included? That's selfish." Then Eli did it. He looked at her, then at me, and pulled out an empty chair. "Just sit, Mom." "It's fine," he said. I couldn't believe it. I stood up and in a voice I didn't even recognize said, "You two enjoy, because I'm done with this marriage." And I walked out. The restaurant went completely silent. It wasn't just a few people glancing over. Everyone stopped talking. Even the clinking of silverware stopped. I didn't look back at Eli or Helen. I walked out the door and didn't stop until I reached the corner. I called an Uber and went to a friend's house. I didn't go back home that night or the next. When I finally did, Eli was waiting. He looked shocked, like I was the one who ruined the night. He said, "You embarrassed me." I replied, "You chose her." He tried to explain, saying he didn't want to make a scene and that telling her to leave would have caused more trouble. He said he didn't know what else to do. I said, "You could have stood up for me like a husband, like someone who cares." He didn't say anything. This wasn't just about one bad dinner. It was years of being ignored, pushed aside, and expected to just deal with it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I started planning quietly. I stopped engaging with him. No more conversations. No more pretending. I began separating everything. Finances, accounts, everything. I met with a lawyer, got documents, took pictures of everything in the house that I bought. I opened a new bank account, changed my direct deposit, got a P.O. box, and found a new apartment. Eli still acted like nothing was wrong, like the dinner was just an overreaction. I stopped sleeping in the same bed, stopped cooking meals. He didn't seem to notice, or maybe he did and didn't care. After the dinner incident, I stayed quiet and took time to think. Eli acted like nothing had happened. The day after I came back, he was playing video games on the couch like it was any other Saturday. He asked, "You feeling better?" I didn't respond. He said, "You know how she gets. It's easier to let her come along than deal with the drama. I didn't answer, I just walked past him, realizing I was done pretending. I wasn't going to ask him to set boundaries anymore. I was going to act. I made copies of everything: bank records, receipts, texts, and emails. I handled most of our finances, so it was easy to track everything. I found out Eli had been sending his mother money, small amounts at first, but it added up. There were transfers labeled Mom's refund for car repairs, Helen groceries, and reimburse Mom for brunch. I never agreed to any of that. When I casually asked him about it, he said, "She's done so much for us. It's the least I can do." I added screenshots of these transactions to my folder. Things took a bigger turn one morning. While Eli was in the shower, I saw a message from Helen on his phone. I wasn't snooping, but I couldn't ignore it. It said, "Did you tell her yet?" I opened their group chat and saw multiple messages from Helen saying things like, "She's going to find out eventually. You said you'd tell her last week. It's not fair to keep hiding it." There were no other names in the group, just Helen and Eli. I felt my stomach drop. What were they hiding? When Eli came out of the shower, I didn't yell. I just handed him the phone. He went pale and sat down. "I was going to tell you," he said. "Tell me what, Eli?" He then admitted that Helen had moved into an apartment 2 floors below ours 6 months ago. She hadn't told me because she didn't want to make it awkward. She just wanted to be closer to him and keep an eye on things. I couldn't believe it. She had been watching me for 6 months, never saying a word, while Eli helped her move in and lie to me every day. I was beyond angry. He said, "I didn't think it was a big deal." "Not a big deal." I shouted. "Your mother lives in the same building, Eli. You let her stalk me and lie to me for 6 months. That night, I packed a bag and left. Since then, I've been preparing. I found a new apartment, quiet, with no mothers in sight. My lawyer has been great, handling everything step by step. But Helen? She's not taking it well. She's been sending me emails, some passive-aggressive, others downright rude. Here are a few. Marriage is about forgiveness, not throwing tantrums. You're punishing him for being a good son. You'll regret this when you're old and alone." I didn't respond. She even showed up outside my new place, standing on the sidewalk, staring up at my building. When I didn't come down, she sent me a text. "Running won't fix your attitude problem." I showed it to my lawyer, and we're documenting everything. Eli hasn't been chasing me, though. But I know he's still talking to her every day. He probably still doesn't get it. Here's where things got even messier. My lawyer found something while going through our property history. Helen's name is on the condo title. Apparently, when we bought it, Eli listed her as a silent investor to help with the down payment. But here's the kicker. I paid most of that deposit. The paperwork was filed through a friend of Helen's who works at a real estate office. I never saw the fine print. They added her name to the title without me knowing. So now it's me against Eli and Helen, and technically she has a claim on our home. She could try to block me from selling it or force Eli to keep it. My lawyer says we can fight it, but the fact that Eli signed that without telling me, it feels like he was planning this long before that restaurant scene, maybe from the start. I thought the betrayal was bad when I found out Helen had moved 2 floors below us. But I was wrong. I didn't realize how deep the situation went until this week. I thought I was just dealing with a controlling mother-in-law and a husband who couldn't stand up to her. Turns out, I was in the middle of something much more calculated. 2 days ago, Eli texted me asking to meet. He said he wanted to talk about ending things peacefully. He sounded serious, so I agreed to meet at a coffee shop, not Luca's, don't worry. He showed up with a folder and said, "I brought some papers. Nothing legal, just something to make the split smoother." I didn't touch them. I asked, "What are these?" He hesitated. "It's just a quick property settlement. My mom's lawyer helped put it together, just so we're all clear on who gets what." I opened the folder and my heart sank. It was a quick claim deed transferring my interest in the condo to Helen. He said, "You won't have to worry about the place anymore. You're moving out anyway, right? This just settles it. Clean break." I stared at him in disbelief before saying anything. "You want me to give up my home to your mother?" He shrugged. "Yeah, but it's complicated now." I closed the folder, got up, and walked out without saying a word. When I showed the folder to my lawyer, her jaw tightened. "Where did he even get this?" I told her Helen's lawyer had drafted it. She flipped through the pages and said, "This isn't just a quick settlement. It's a trap. If you had signed this, you'd be giving up any right to the property with no compensation. She sat back and said, "You're not divorcing just a man. You're divorcing a mother-son business operation." I started connecting the dots. I went through old emails, receipts, and forgotten conversations, and everything started clicking. When we bought the condo, Helen insisted we use her friend's real estate office. She said, "They'll give you a better rate." At the time, I trusted Eli to handle it. Now I know that office is no longer licensed, shut down for shady dealings and forged documents. Guess who signed the closing papers? Eli and Helen. They left me off whole sections of the contract, telling me it was just standard stuff and didn't need my signature. It's not legal, but it's shady. My lawyer's working on having a property fraud investigator look into it. If we can prove intent, we might have a case for fraud. Here's the latest twist, and it actually made me laugh. Apparently, Helen tried to list the condo for sale last week without me knowing. A neighbor texted me, confused, saying, "I saw a for sale sign outside your unit. Are you moving?" I checked online, and sure enough, my address was listed with an open house scheduled. The contact number was Helen's. I called the agent listed, and he seemed confused, saying he was hired by the co-owner and financial contributor. He said she told him the other party, me, was already bought out. I immediately forwarded that to my lawyer. Now Helen's being investigated for fraudulent listing activity. After the quick claim attempt, Eli started bombarding me with texts. First, long messages about how hurt he was. Then guilt trips. "You're throwing away everything we built." And finally, anger. "You're ruining my life because you're mad at my mom." I didn't respond. He called 11 times in one night, leaving a voicemail crying, saying, "You don't understand. She was the only one there for me when I had nothing. She gave me everything, and now you're taking it all away from her." That told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't just married to Ella. I was married to Eli and Helen, and I was the third wheel all along. The condo is now on hold due to the investigation. Nobody can sell it until ownership is clarified. My lawyer is preparing for a full divorce filing and property dispute. I've started therapy weekly because I didn't realize how broken I felt until I left that house. Helen is under watch. If she tries another stunt like the fake sale, we'll file criminal charges. There's more I haven't shared yet. Things I've uncovered about Eli's bank accounts, things I'm sure Helen doesn't even know I know. That's coming soon. This isn't over, not even close. At this point, the legal battle had started. The divorce was happening and the property dispute was a nightmare. Helen had even tried to sell my condo behind my back. But it still wasn't over. Some people don't give up easily. It was a Thursday night and I was at my new apartment, eating takeout when I got a text from Eli. "Can you come to dinner at Mom's one time to talk?" I didn't answer right away. Something about his tone felt wrong, too calm, too fake, but I agreed. Why? Because I wanted them to say it all out loud. No more hiding behind texts or lies. I wanted to see them squirm face to face. I needed it for closure. I got there early at 7:00 p.m. sharp. Helen opened the door with a smile like everything was normal. Her house smelled like meatloaf and entitlement. She said, "Glad you came. We can be adults about this." I didn't smile. Eli was already sitting at the table, looking tired and worn out. Good. We sat down. Dinner was quiet at first, then Helen cleared her throat. "We wanted to talk about the condo, about what's fair." "Fair?" I almost laughed. She kept talking. "You were never financially ready to buy something like that. Eli and I made it happen. It only makes sense that we protect our investment." Eli nodded a little. "It was never meant to go this way." I put my fork down. "You mean the way you lied about her living in the building, forged my signature, and tried to trick me into signing my property over with a fake document?" Helen frowned. "Don't be dramatic." That's when something snapped in me. I stood up. "You think this is about property? This is about how you both disrespected me for 6 years. You never saw me as family. You never even saw me as real." Eli said, "I tried." "No, you hid behind her your whole life. You never really left her house. You just brought it into mine." Helen stood up now too. "You don't understand how hard he's had it. I gave him everything." I looked at her, then at him, "And he gave it all to you, even when he promised it to me." Then I pulled out a folder from my lawyer, bank statements, payment records, proof that I paid for 87% of the condo directly. I dropped it on the table. That's the truth. You can tell your stories, but numbers don't lie. Silence. Eli's face dropped. He didn't even open the folder. He just stared at it, like it might bite him. Helen said, "This is unnecessary. You're being vindictive." Just then, a voice spoke behind me. "She's not being vindictive. She's telling the truth." It was Helen's sister, Aunt Marie. I hadn't noticed her come in. Apparently, she was involved because my lawyer had subpoenaed Helen's financials, some of which were tied to Marie through a family trust. Marie walked in with her arms crossed. "Do you want to tell her, Helen? Or should I?" Helen froze. I asked, "Tell me what?" Marie looked at me. The money Helen used for the down payment, it wasn't hers. It was from a trust fund left by her late husband, meant for younger family members. She wasn't supposed to touch it. She forged documents to get it released. I found out because your lawyer asked me to verify the funds. My stomach dropped. Eli whispered, "Is that true?" Helen stayed quiet. Marie dropped the bomb. "If this gets reported, and it will, she could be facing fraud charges." Helen screamed, "You're destroying this family. You brought an outsider into our home, and now look what's happened." Eli stood up and yelled back, "You did this, Mom. You lied. You made me lie. You ruined everything." She slapped him right there, in front of me and Marie. He didn't react. He just stood there, shaking, red-faced. I picked up my folder and calmly walked out. Before I left, I said, "You can keep your lies, but you're not keeping my life, my name, or my future." And I walked out. The next day, my lawyer froze the condo's title completely. Helen's accounts were flagged for investigation. Marie agreed to testify if needed. Eli emailed me to apologize, saying he didn't know about the trust fund and was sorry for everything. I didn't reply. Instead, I signed the final divorce papers, had them delivered to his new P.O. box, and changed my last name back the next day. It's been 3 months since that night. I live in a smaller apartment now, no fancy countertops, no shared mortgage, but it's mine. I sleep better, laugh louder, and cook dinner without being judged for how I slice vegetables. Sometimes I look back and feel angry about the years I lost, about how blind I was. But mostly, I feel grateful because I got out. And if you're reading this, wondering whether you should walk away from someone who never stood up for you, here's your sign.